the moment you decided to move here and plant roots in Indy is the second that you started being able to unlock ability to build wealth, which is
hardly agree.
Wild to me that like
you were a little more on a treadmill before, like maybe making dents in it.
Yeah.
But like witnessing you, I mean, you've created generational wealth, I would presume.
I hope so.
At this point.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you share a little bit about your business today? Because I know you have wedding venues, you have Off-Leash. Like, share a little bit about where you're at today and where you're going.
Yeah. So at any given point in time, I've got somewhere between 60 and 70 rentals. That number does tend to change by the week or so, but it tends to hover in that number. A couple years ago, actually in 2022, when I left Facebook, I began doing a whole lot more flipping. I had an opportunity to sell a decent chunk of my portfolio and did that and ended up buying, like you were indicating, a wedding venue down in Bloomington, the Wilds wedding venue for anybody who's local and is looking to get married. I don't think there's a nicer one out there. And did that. And what I've continued to find throughout my life is that I just go and I find the next great opportunity, and then incredible accidents happen. So like, for instance, when I sold that chunk of my portfolio, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was not looking for a wedding venue. I saw that I needed to spend north of $3 million based on my 1031 exchange, which is a tax-free exchange with a whole lot of rules. Talk to your accountant before attempting it yourself. So I just went on Zillow because I didn't want to go buy 15 crappy houses and fix them up. I was like, that's just going to be so much work to get done in the time frame. So I just was like, all right, I'll just find an apartment building. And I just went on Zillow and put the minimum up and stumbled across this incredible wedding venue.
You bought the wedding venue off of Zillow?
100% off Zillow. Yes, that's where I first saw it. My agent,
there are good deals on the market.
My agent made out like a freaking bandit in that I found that one, and then he.
So I mean, I've been to the Wilds. I'm familiar with the Wilds, and the view where you get married is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
Are they selling it as a house?
No, they were selling it as a wedding venue, but it did have the 2 attached houses as well.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a weird transaction. It should not have been on Zillow.
Yeah, I was going to say I was trying to rationalize, but I forgot that there's the STRs up front, right?
One of them's an STR.
Okay,
yeah.
that makes more sense.
Yeah. Can we go back to something you said about where you're at now that I've been hyper curious about? I have, I think, 6 rentals, and right now I don't draw any of it to pay for groceries or living expenses. Yeah. Like, it's all saving up, I feel like, for like the next roof or the next calamity that's going to strike.
Smart play.
I mean, a smart saying is you can't buy groceries with equity.
Yeah. Like, it's the equity's been great. We're talking 20% annualized growth, like when I look at it. However, you have 60 to 70 rentals. Are you like essentially printing money that you're using to live off of? Is that all reinvested?
I've never
taken a neutral?
I've never taken $1. Thankfully, I've been well employed throughout my entire career. My wife is well employed, so that's a super privileged thing to say. But yeah, I've been rolling it forward into the next opportunity, rolling it into the next flip, and all of that. And so no, I actually haven't taken a single dollar out of my rental portfolio.
Do you know off the top of your head your average home value?
It's somewhere between 100 and 200, somewhere in that range. I'd say probably about 145 if I had to guess.
Have those continued to increase over the time? Not just because of natural appreciation. We're only talking about 2 years, so there's not a ton of natural appreciation, but just as you roll it forward, are you selling one's worth 120, getting rid of that one, replacing it with 180?
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. I'm actually trying to do away with my lower end units on a regular basis. I used to write down on a daily basis that I wanted 1,000 doors. Like, that was something that was really important to me. And what is
the vanity metric?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Total vanity metric. And that was a waste of time. That was a mistake. Because I thought that the door count was what was important, but what actually is important is the return on your time invested, at least for me. I value the return on my time invested much more than the return on investment. And so those lower end units.
Your time is more valuable. Like, it's increasingly more valuable. Spending time calling a contractor you're losing money.
It sucks. Yeah.
It's also running and chasing after rent checks.
Yeah.
And getting calls that a brick's been thrown through your window while you're on paternity leave with your wife.
That's never happened,
personal
right?
experience.
Yeah.
Never happened. Currently not dealing with that.
As you've gotten into better properties that are worth more, has your cash flow taken a hit?
Yeah, absolutely. in some ways. But then there are alternative ways to make more money on those things. So like, for instance, we just launched an Airbnb, another Airbnb. Those things crush for me from a cash flow perspective. And if you've built systems enough in place, you can do it with management, without management. But your cash flow, we've got one that just appraised for 340 that pulls in north of $5,000 a month. We got another one that's probably similar price point and similar rent. We got one down in Bates Hendricks that's doing similar. So you can significantly outperform those rent to value ratios. I think where people struggle is on the low end Airbnbs. You don't tend to actually get the same kind of rent to value that you will on the higher end. So I think that's an opportunity. The other opportunities are turning that equity into, we now have 2 wedding venues. So we bought a second one and we're utilizing all those same systems to grow and continue to employ more people and throw a whole lot more awesome parties.
Yeah, selfishly, I want to know more about the wedding venue business in general.
Yeah.
That was my wife's goal, was to own a wedding venue. Like when she went to college, that's what she went for event management tourism, wanted to be able to own a wedding venue. And then we, fast forward, she gets out of college and we go, how do we even buy a wedding venue?
It's hard.
It's just so saturated for me when I look at Indiana. Like if you look up wedding venue in Indiana, there are so many. How do you stay competitive in that marketplace? And how do those perform, if you know it all? Or do you just have business management running it and you're kind of removed and just see the reports?
No, I definitely don't just see the reports. I'm not a part of any of the individual weddings anymore. That hasn't been something I've done for over a year now, which is something I'm really lucky.
You're not passing out the flowers.
No. So one of the rules.
Stand-in best man.
Yeah. Funny you say. I have officiated a wedding at the Wilds, but I have not. Wow. I haven't had
rent to best man.
Yeah, rent. You can rent me. I'm not that expensive, but one of the things my wife said when I came home and I told her, "Hey, I think we're going to buy a wedding venue." She just looks at me. She kind of, put her head down, shook her head, and she goes, "Okay, I trust you, but you can't talk to any of the brides."
That's what she's thinking about.
She's just like, I know that you're going to think that their problems are too small and all that. So thankfully,
she just puts her head down. I can just only
she's
imagine.
like, oh my God, this
guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, also, like, I know nothing about wedding. She did look at me, and the other thing she said is, "You were barely involved in your own wedding. What are you doing?" And so I'm really, really incredibly blessed. I have 3 full-timers who work for me at the Wilds and Laurel Mill who are absolutely incredible. Like, I don't need to manage them on a day-to-day basis. They know what they need to do, and they go and they execute at a high level. Where I add values from the business perspective, I go look at the new opportunities. I help to focus them from a resourcing perspective. But I think my involvement with the wedding venues is maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. So pretty darn light, given the fact that I think we're going to do about 150 weddings this next year. So really lucky, we've got liquor, we've got probably 25 part-timers who work for us. So
I'm doing quick math between, if you're doing weddings on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have
sometimes
2
Mondays, sometimes Thursdays. Yeah.
Yeah. You're running 2 to 3 weddings a week weekends. At each, or 2 to 3 at each venue a week, or between the 2?
No, I'm saying between the 2, we're going to do 150.
Okay.
So, we've had a couple 6, 7 weekend weddings or wedding weekends.
So I have to ask then, if you have a full-time person who I know you've shared this, they're paid pretty well.
Yeah.
What does that P&L statement look like for you? Like, is it profitable or is it,
Yeah, it's profitable. Now we do have quite a bit of debt on it because, they were big purchases, but yeah, they're definitely quite profitable for us. Our expense ratio, it's funny. I was talking to somebody about this today, sits at about 55% before we end up paying the ownership.
Wow.
And debt and all that.
Just knowing I know some about that industry just from her experience going and working places. That's really cool. That to me is, I like finding the unique. I see a lot of real estate investors that don't just own real estate. Yeah. I own a GNC and then have roots in just different companies that are evolving. The wedding venue, that's I think we need to buy a wedding venue. You need to let me in on the next one.
All right. Hey, funny enough, I had an inside track, but I decided to pass on it. And and maybe that's something that might be interesting to everybody. But I've really gotten to the point now where I have more opportunities come into my world than I have capacity to do it. My time is my number one most constrained resource by a mile, and I'm not willing to rob my family. I'm not really willing to rob my daughter from my time to go and pursue new opportunities in a lot of situations. So I'm kind of in the mentality that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no at this point in time. And really, actually, on a third venue that would have been a lot more work, a lot more to go into it, I ended up passing on that opportunity simply because it wasn't a hell yeah